exist even in industries and sectors, right? So that you will always have the kings, you always have, all kind. I mean, it was instructive to note that, in the categories, even the merchants are like number 7 or number 8, which is the business people. The priests are even number 6, right? And so it brought a lot of light to many of the people I was teaching yesterday. And I began to say to them, hey, in raising your children, you need to ensure that your children don't end up at foot soldiers, right? That who they follow, because many of us are fixated on, especially if you're Christian, you're also fixated on following someone who is a spiritual person. If you're a Muslim, you are fixated on following someone who is an Islamic cleric. You need to make your choice depending on where you want to go. Fisayo says all the time that everyone has got a voice, money is the volume. That you need to plan to build a global war chest. None of us here is a political office holder. I'm not sure any of us is going to become a president, maybe in another 10 years. I'm not sure, but do you understand how the world is framed? In your state, for example, do you know who the next governor is going to be? Are you positioning yourself aright so that at least if you can't be in power, can you be in the bedroom of power? Can you be in the corridor of power? Because if you're not in the corridor, if you're not in the bedroom, then you're an outsider, and then you will need to talk to people. We talk to people. You may never even see the king for the rest of your life. Someone was going to take a political position, and it was going to be special assistant, to the president. And I said to him, are you aware that you may not see the president physically in the same room within the 4 years that he's going to be in power, or 8 years that he's going to? He said, no, it's not possible. Okay. I said, go. All right. The person has still not seen the president. That if you don't understand how the world is framed when it comes to power hierarchy, power centers, and power dynamics, you will just be groping. And so you can't be in House of Saviors and be very ignorant. So for our members, the members of House of Saviors, we have our first quarterly meeting this month, right? And so I'll share those power dynamics in there, right? And so we continue our series on building the global war chest. If there's ever any time you need to build a global war chest, it's now. My wife sent me a video during the week about someone who gave some money to Harvard University, for sponsorship of certain students. I think it was like $1 billion, and she put in there, she said, PF, this is what our money will be doing with time. I said, yes, I agree with you, right? You have to see yourself beyond the masses, right? With time, we don't expect anybody here to be part of the masses. We need to be decision makers. We need to be the people who can say, you know what, in 2040, we want to impose our own president on Nigeria, and we need $1 billion, everybody to drop $1 billion to sponsor a candidate and put the candidate in there because it's going to do well for, and without blinking, everybody drops $1 billion, and we have like 200 billion to fight them money for money and impose the right person in there. Because if you don't understand the rules of engagement in a country, in a nation, you just be groping and be wishing and then entreating God, so you vote an evil person into power, and then you'll be praying to God to touch his heart, to touch his heart, to touch his heart. I was born to see that. We can't continue that way. America got to a point, there was going to be a president who would affect the guys who enjoyed monopoly, and all of them were enemies. And guess what they did? They knew that this guy would be a threat, so all of them came together for the first time and put money down and brought in their own president, bought their own president, and imposed him on the nation. All right. So when the Bible says money solves all things, that's what it says. So if anybody still has the mindset, we are the poor people, please. This is House of Saviors. We're going to save people. Jews believe that the more money you make, the more you can fight injustice. We need to plan to make money. We need to plan to make money. We need to plan to make money, guys. You need to plan. So you need to sharpen your sickle. So on that note, I'm going to welcome Fisayo Okusanya. We've been enjoying the session. He said, if you are not at the table, you will be on the menu. That was profound, when he made that statement last week. So we welcome our TISA, our own TISA in the building. Fisayo Okusanya. FO, you're welcome. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you're listening from. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed these few sessions. And I want to take it from where I took it before. Now, thank you for welcoming me. I want to set a mindset, right? I want to establish a mindset, because really and truly, what you would get in life is not as important as who you become through the entire process. So it's really about being rather than having. We focus on having, but life is focused on being. Even God is focused on what you will become. So I want to ask a few questions to see if you are following, to see if I can move on to the next sort of part of the curriculum, because it's quite a long curriculum, but the curriculum is focused on being rather than doing or having. Doing and having would come, but being first, being, then doing, then having. So you first become and then you do. Anytime you try to do when you have not become, it's hypocrisy. And you see that all over social media, people doing, but they are not what they are doing. So who can remind me? I mean, I just want 2 or 3 people unmute your mics. Tell me what you've learned in the last 2 weeks. Tell me if you have anything that you've thought about. Tell me if you've thought about how you can apply those things, and then we'll take the discussion from there. I will just select 2 people. 2 people. I want 2 people to speak. 2 people that are not praiseful. 2 people. Going. I'm waiting for someone to unmute or raise their hands. Njideka, thank you. The floor is yours. Njideka, you can speak now. Oh, okay, I need to unmute you. All right. All right, I think we can speak now.
Okay, hello everyone. The one that quickly actually came to my mind is the way you have tried to open our eyes to the things we learn in church that is holding us down, and how you have used Bible verses to explain to us, what the passages are actually saying and how empowering they are when we truly understand what is being said there. So that thing of saying from the beginning, God created, has really resonated so well with me that if I say that I'm, made in the image of God, that means I have creative ability. And it doesn't matter where I am. So that thing of also saying that there is a lot of darkness because our light is so small that it had to be too dark for that little light to shine. It's also something I'm thinking about, and it's empowering me to really unashamedly and fearlessly, demanding from life. You've also tried to make it obvious to us that sometimes, because of our upbringing, we keep focusing on being fair than knowing the rules of engagement of what's available. So we keep saying he's not good, he's not a good person, so he won't make it or what. But then the evil people, those we tag evil, they know the rules of the game and they make it. So that's a bit of, my innocence, my innocence was tampered with there, that it's not really about being good, that there are rules of engagement. So it's made me curious wherever I come to now, that I want to understand what's the rule of engagement, and that thing of between living a small life just because you think you are being good, then you are living a small life and you're not letting your light shine.
Thank you for that. Njideka said that it tampered with our innocence. I like that. Yes, I think that's a good way to tamper with your innocence. And before someone else speaks, let me just, because I decided, let's make it a bit interactive. Let me say something about what you said, in Judeka just now about light and darkness. This is an age-old metaphysical battle, right? The battle between light and darkness, And the question is it the battle between good and evil? And that's what we need to really ask ourselves. And does good always win, or what is light? Because if you define light as only good, I'm not saying light is not good, but if you define light in a narrow sense as good, you may have a challenge, because then you exclude a lot of things, right? So Isaiah 60 says, "Arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." Now, the next verse says, "Darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord." So a prerequisite for your light to shine is darkness. So there's a point where you need to embrace darkness in order, complaining about darkness is counterintuitive. In fact, it's borderline, I don't want to use an insulting word, but it's borderline senseless. And I want to bury this mindset inside you, because this is where it is. That when things get bad and when there's darkness all around, it does not make logical sense for you to complain, a light bearer. It doesn't. In fact, you may be malfunctioning if you are complaining, or complaining will lead you to malfunctioning. You are not functioning in the way that you should. When Peter was in jail and the angel came to rescue him, the angel came in, and if you read that part carefully, you will find out that the angel did not touch the chains. The angel did not touch the prison gates. The angel did not touch anything. The angel touched Peter and the chains fell off, because Peter was the only one malfunctioning. The chains were doing their job. Every other thing was functioning properly. So he touched Peter and the chains fell off, right? He touched Peter and the chains fell off. So somehow your growth now should be a function of your diet. Quality diet leads to growth. Now, someone asked me, how do you embrace darkness? It is by shining light, but that's not the first stage. The first stage is a decision not to complain, because a depressed heart cannot access light, right? So if you go into complaining mode, what that happens is that it shuts off the tap of innovation, and you find yourself saying things like, this country can never work. I've heard people saying this country is finished. You will never be blessed by a country that you slander. You must know this. A land that you slander, you will never be blessed by. So the first stage is, okay, there's a certain disposition of joy. And I know this sounds funny, right? But there's a certain disposition of joy that needs to come over you when darkness comes, because you know there's time. Have you ever seen somebody who the doctor says to that you have this, and he says, the doctor says to that there's nothing more we can do, and the person says, okay, and you're wondering, what's wrong with this person? There's information that the person knows that you don't know. So he says, thank God. So Abraham sent Hagar out with Ishmael, and he gave him a bottle of water and a loaf of bread. Gave him a bottle of water and a loaf of bread. Abraham would have been perceived as a wicked man. But you see, Abraham knew God, and he was a man of faith. He knew that the earlier his own help finishes, the earlier God's help can kick in. And this is where people of light are different from everybody else. This is where people of light are different. So imagine, instead of gathering and complaining about Nigeria, we're now saying, this is your time, PF. That idea that you'll be having, this is the time. Maybe they don't know what they're doing in CBN. Therefore, this is the time. This is your time. And there's a certain excitement and joy that is inside us. That joy is a prerequisite to accessing the light of God. Because it says, with joy, you will draw water from the wells of salvation. That joy, if you do not understand how to cultivate it in darkness, and you start avoiding darkness, or you do not want to embrace it, you know, you may lose it out. So first of all, I want to cure that disposition, right? Complaining, like I said, complaining about darkness is counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense at all, because it says that your light will shine, but gross darkness means to cover the earth first of all. And if you think about it, the conditions, 3 pre-existing conditions were on the earth in Genesis 1. And I like the fact that Njideka talked about creation and being a co-creator. So 3 pre-existing conditions were on the earth in Genesis 1. One, it was dark. It was without form. It was void. Without form means directionless. Void means empty, right? Darkness means no light, confusion, right? So even if your life has those 3 pre-existing conditions, what you should be saying is, I am a co-creator. And a lot of thinking and introspection, I am a co-creator. You will be shocked that if you give yourself 3 weeks of positive, a positive disposition and solid thinking time, I am a co-creator, you will find that light starts to break. But of course, we said it last week that the criteria is that your heart must be in the right place, which means that you must understand that people are God's priority. And while you are doing this, not for yourself alone, is also for people. And I'll touch a bit on that so that we can understand. So if you are waiting for the macroeconomic situation to get better before you launch that idea, then you are wrong. Because you are the one that's going to make it better by stepping out. If you think about everybody in the Bible, Joseph exploded in the time of famine. Famine was required to bring him to limelight, right? David exploded in the time when Israel was under assault by Goliath. Goliath was required to bring David to limelight. Why must yours or ours be different? So this is an order, and things have sort of gotten into gear for you to blow, and you're here complaining. Things have gotten into place. All the things have been stacked for you to blow, for you to enter into your next level. Yeah, but you don't see it because you are here complaining. And so you must understand. So I'll go back to prospering as your soul prospers. That it is men who understand that people are God's priority. It is men who understand that. And it's those men that also understand that humanity their love work with humanity determines how far they go in life. So let me start. I just wanted to answer Njika by that. Say thank you for that, Njika. Is there anybody else that wants to say something? If not, we continue. Sharon, you put on your camera. You want to say something? Don't worry, I don't want to put you on the spot. Anyone? Okay. If there's no one, let me start by saying this. One, the purpose of, and again, something else. So the first thing I said was to cure you of that thinking that we approach darkness with joy. It doesn't sound logical, but we approach darkness. So they say, oh, this thing has happened. You say, oh, well, imagine that's your reaction to darkness. Thank God. Now things are now in place, right? Until now, they were not in place. Until now, our solution may not have been appreciated. But now things are in place. Our solutions will be appreciated. You know, we can bring intensity. We can bring intensity to the light. So we approach it with joy. That's the first thing you must understand, right? Now, the second thing you must understand is that the purpose of work is not to feed you. And this is something that a lot of people make mistakes from. The purpose of work is not to feed you, right? The purpose of work is not to feed you. Genesis says, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is on the face of the earth, and of the trees in which a fruit yielding seed, and I have given them to you for meat. The purpose of work is not to feed you. Try it. Stop working. You will find food somehow, especially in Nigeria. Maybe those abroad, you will suffer a bit. But the purpose of work is not, or let me rephrase that, the purpose of work is not just to feed you. So you feed yourself, but that's not the end game of work, to just feed you and your family. No. The purpose of work is to complete what God has started. Now, please listen to this. Because if you don't have this end, this thinking behind what you are doing, you may never enter into wealth because you are thinking me and my family. The purpose of work is to complete what God has started, right? So everything God created, he created and he said it was good. In that day, it was good, right? But in the next day, that thing that was good and perfect was the raw material for the development of something else. So he created the water and it was good. Then in the next day, he spoke to the water and created fish, right? He created the ground. It was good. In the next day, he spoke to the ground and the ground brought forth. God created trees and they were good. And then we took trees and we created paper and we created wooden things, right? The purpose of work is to continue that work. As the operational level of the spirit changes, which is why you can never be stuck on what you want to do. And this is where I'm going with this. You must be flexible because, like I always say, the industries that will carry the next few billionaires, some of them are not apparent now, right? If you are not stuck in knowing that the final product of today is the raw material for tomorrow, you will not understand this. And you may never ever enter it. So some of you say, I want to be in oil and gas, but this your oil and gas may be the raw material for something that we're using tomorrow, right? And so the purpose of work is to complete what God has said. God finished, like I said, the work, and he did it. Now, in order for man to fulfill this role, right, God made him a co-creator. Now, this is anthropological, and I want you to understand it. It clicks with Bible, it clicks with history. That the difference between man and all the other animals is speech. The difference between man and all the other animals is what? Speech. And so God breathed into man the breath of life, and man became, the word there, living soul, actually reads another speaking spirit. So there were two speaking spirits on the earth, God and man, which means two people who had the right to create. And I don't want you to take this for granted. When you say you're a co-creator, it's not a cliche. You have the right to create. You have the capacity to create. In fact, with your words, you can break down the molecular structure of your life and reassemble it the way you want. If you don't like the life you have today, I have tried it and it has worked. Over the space of 3-4 years, I didn't like the life I had. I broke down molecule by molecule and reassembled the life. Now I have a life that I like, right? And that life receives light in installments. And with every new season and every new installment of life, you see the movement, right? And we move. Even in darkness, we elevate, right? And that's the purpose of work, right? So you understand that in order to ensure that you were able to continue his work, he made you another speaking spirit that breathes into your environment, right? Which is why it doesn't make sense to complain in darkness, because you are breathing into the environment. You are the one that's flowing rivers of living water and not the other way around. The darkness in the environment is not supposed to have access to you. You're supposed to be breathing into the environment. You see, but the problem is that we have been locked up in arrangements where we have followed men and we have not really followed God. And those men we follow did not teach that, look, you need to succeed with this thing you call your faith. That if this thing you call your faith is not succeeding in the marketplace, then it is not truly your faith. And so, because we have not been able to succeed with faith in the marketplace, we have now made titles important in the church. And this is not just Pentecostalism. This is from way back, history of the church, right? Check it. Look at the MD of every large multinational that was a Christian. Ask me if he cares whether you call him pastor this or pastor that. No, because his success outside of the four walls of church enough to validate him. It is those guys that cannot carry this thing and succeed that now want to be pastor this. Oh, he didn't ordain me. And you see people now going into diabolism just to get ordained and to get senior positions and to get particular postings to where there's money in the church, right? Because we've lost that worldview or view of everything, and we prefer, come to our church. And that's not the message. That's not the gospel. The gospel is we take this thing that we call faith and we go into the market and we do the impossible and we flood the place with light, right? And so because we have not been able to flood the place with light, darkness has flooded everywhere. And the small atupa that we have now, the darkness is so dark so that they can see our atupa. Shine, even that atupa, shine in that lantern. You know, it is the intensity of light that you bring that determines how long you spend getting somewhere. So if I was to walk through the forest with a lantern, do you know how long it would take me to walk through that forest? A long time. But if someone brought floodlights, right, and everywhere was bright, suddenly my speed will pick up. It is the intensity of light that you are willing to bring to any situation that can collapse time, right? So if you ask yourself, how long am I going to be in this phase of my life where I am living from hand to mouth, I don't have enough, I don't have net worth, not talk of money, not talk of assets and all that. Ask you, then it's a light problem. And this is something I want you to know, it is a light problem. Ezekiel recorded a conversation between God and a king in the book of Ezekiel. He said, God said to the king, listen to this, very interesting. He said, God said to this king, he said, through your wisdom and traffic. When I saw the word traffic in King James, old King James, I said, there's a problem here. How did I miss this? He said, through your wisdom and traffic, you have made yourself wealthy. So it's possible to make yourself wealthy. God was talking to the king. He said, through wisdom, right? And traffic. So, first of all, wisdom is not enough. You can be wise and be poor, right? First of all, let's agree that you can be wise and poor. So if people sitting on their armchair, and someone prospers, say, it was my mate in school and I was better than him in school. Story. I could have done it. You could have. You were wise. I used to give him tutorials. And you're saying it with your mouth. Then what happened, right? So in our training school, I was better than him. Story. You can be wise and be poor, so be careful. And that's where people miss it. You can be wise, but wisdom doesn't do anything for your bank account. Please be careful. Wisdom doesn't do anything for your bank account, right? So it says through wisdom and traffic, right? You have made yourself wealthy. And it's in the book of Ezekiel, I think 33 or something, or 3, I'll find it. It says, so in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, wow, you can make yourself wealthy through wisdom and traffic. Now, what's the second part? It says traffic. What's traffic? People. It means that this wealth thing is a game of numbers. Please write it down. If you have not written anything I've said down today, please write this down. That wealth is a game of numbers, right? Ezekiel 28 verse 5, it says, by thy wisdom and thy traffic, right? Wealth is a game of numbers, which means this. The number of people you touch, the larger the number of people you touch, the greater the amount of money you are allowed to make and keep. This thing is not about work. It's about people. Are you listening? Which is why I started by saying the purpose of work is not to feed you. This thing is not about work. It's about people. Because if you get stuck in the work and you don't understand it's about people, then you will miss the omniscient and the omnipotent dimension of wealth, right? And you will think that you have to coco, John to suffer to make money. And some people still will labor on that if I don't suffer, then I feel guilty. You know, my friend and I did some work over some time and we made a lot of money. And he said, I'm feeling guilty. I said, I don't feel guilty. I understand this principle that it is doing darkness. If you can bring light to impact a large amount of people, you seal your wealth. Do you know what this means? It means that every season of darkness is a season of wealth exchange. And you are wasting a tragedy by complaining about darkness. You are wasting a cycle of wealth transfer by complaining about darkness. If you are not ready for it, then it's on you. It's not on the darkness. You hear what I'm saying? If you are not ready for the dark season, that means you have to go through another cycle of waiting for the dark season. Because when the light season comes, things will consolidate. It will be hard to break in. But once in a while, nature changes the game and shakes everything up. shakes everything up so that some underdogs can make billions. And that season is called darkness. And you are complaining instead of bringing your light to bear. Do you hear what I'm saying? Let's give it an example. Let's imagine that they notice, they do some research in the White House, and allow me dream, it's my dream, it's not your dream. And they find out that families in the US have collapsed. The family system has collapsed. That all these things they're talking about, laws, gays, it's just family. And someone sits down there and says, you know, there's a guy called Praise, you know, and Biden says, give me his number, I want to talk to him directly. What would have made Biden pick up the phone to call Prief? It is the darkness. It is darkness. It is darkness. You are wasting a good opportunity when you should embrace it. So he says, I will give you treasures of darkness. Think about it. Treasures of darkness, hidden riches of secret places, treasures of darkness, which means there's treasure in darkness. If you don't learn to embrace it, you run away from it, you are cutting yourself over a supernatural chance to leapfrog in your life, because it is inside darkness that the treasures are hidden. So I said, this thing, it is not, and so naturally people run away from it. That's why many people will remain poor, right? The reason innovation is scarce from you is that it's not because of anything else, but because of the condition of your soul. It is the liberal soul that will be made fat, right? So your soul needs to be liberal first to understand that I need to accommodate people in the solutions that I am bringing before it made fat. That's why Isaiah saw it. He said, in the last day, he said, the glory of the Lord's house shall be lifted up above every nation. He said, and all nations shall stream into it. It's connected to rise and shine, for the glory of the Lord shall come upon you. So when the light of the Lord's house is lifted up above everything, he said, all nations shall flow. And he used the word stream into it, right? So it is a volume thing. Ask yourself, this thing that I'm doing now, how can I touch more people with it? Then you find solutions coming to you. That should be the question. Not how can I make money? Yes, you want to make money, but not how can I make more money to meet my needs? No, how can I touch more people with it? This thing is a people game, right? It's not a work game. You cannot work harder to reach where you want to get to. Let me just be honest with you. You can only expand the capacity of your heart, right? Now, how do you do that? You need to start, now let's get practical. You need to start doing certain things as a habit in your life. The first is reading. As you read more, you learn more, right? When it says don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, there are three things there. The word conform means with a form. That means together with a form. Transform means above a form. So don't be with the form, but be above the form. And the only way you can be above a form is to inform, right? So you inform, do something to the current form. So don't be conformed, but be above the form through a process called information. You know, inform, because opportunities will come and go. They will be hidden from you if you are not someone who reads voraciously, right? So you need to be informed. The Jews call themselves the people of the book, and they say that true knowledge is portable, right? It's portable. So it is transferable. Read globally. Don't just turn your back when they say things are happening in the other side of the world. You don't know where the opportunities can come, right? So inform yourself. Inform. Make sure that you are constantly taking time out to inform yourself. No billionaire you know out there is ignorant, except those that stole money in Africa. Let's be honest. It's only the billionaires that stole money in Africa that are ignorant. Billionaires out there that made their money, Elon Musk, all those guys, they are the cutting edge. They have systems that bring research to them. They know things that you don't know. They are the cutting edge of innovation. They are the cutting edge of knowledge. They are the cutting edge of everything. So when you are finding out that there are these headphones that that you put in your ear that picks the movement in your jaw so that noise cancellation and all that. The US ministry has had it for 10 years. They have now decided to release it to the market. You are finding out. But some people knew it was there for 10 years. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because those guys are in war zones. They need their headphones to pick without picking the shooting and the bombs. You know, so inform, curiosity. Also, curiosity. Curiosity is something that you need. In fact, one of the things that's killed our healthcare system in Nigeria is a lack of curiosity, right? You must be curious. Why? Curiosity is sometimes a prerequisite to even following God. Let me tell you, sometimes a prerequisite to following God. Imagine if it was a Nigerian man that saw the burning bush. And he just said, hey, I'm mọ̀lẹ́bí today. The village people have arrived. And the guy just took off. I can imagine a conversation in heaven where they just burst into laughter. His food, his airborne, you should have put there for the Nigerian man to come. That he would have never. But Moses had curiosity. He said, let me turn aside and see this great sight. And God related with Moses at the level of his curiosity. Do you understand? So you must be curious. And you know, when Moses turned and saw the burning bush, God wanted to, you see, the Godhead has a pattern, right? Every time God met a man, the Godhead has a pattern. They put, PF is always causing trouble. Curious people have problems with insecure leaders, I agree. And I'm going to talk about it, right? I'm going to talk about this. The Godhead has a pattern. The first person the Godhead will introduce to you is Jesus Christ. The first person. Then you will meet God, then they will leave you with the Holy Spirit. That's the pattern of the Godhead. So when Moses came to the burning bush, Jesus was actually the burning bush, right? So when he talked to him, he now said, who will I tell them that sent me, right? He now said, I am that I am, right? I am that I am. Very powerful statement, I am that I am. I am. He said, tell them I am sent you. Now, when they asked Jesus about Abraham in the New Testament, maybe next week I'll break it down fully. They asked Jesus about Abraham. They said, Abraham, our father's one thing. Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. You see what Jesus was doing there? He was not talking about, he didn't say I was. He said, before Abraham was, I am, right? That's when he introduced himself as I am. That's how we know that Jesus is the I am that Moses met, right? Now, when Judas brought security men to come and carry Jesus, they asked him a question, and I want you to, you see, sometimes you have to be curious, read the Bible closely. They asked him a question. They said, we are looking for Jesus of Nazareth. Which one of you is Jesus of Nazareth? Jesus said, I am, right? Again, introducing himself as I am. You know what next happened? He said, all the men fell down. The power back to the I am. He said, I am, and all the men there fell down. And he just looked at them and laughed. Okay, let me just allow you carry me, Sha. Power to lay it down, power to take it up again. So your curiosity must be fueled. Because when you are curious, you will meet light at higher dimensions, right? You will always meet light at higher dimensions because you can only receive answers at the level at which you are asking questions. A civilization that doesn't ask questions can never access light. That's why the Jews say that culturally, the biggest thing they did for their children is to make them ask questions. If you read Startup Nation, the MD of paper was talking about his first meeting in Israel when they bought fraud sciences. He said that in the US, normally when they're having Monday meetings, all the young people are on their phones, distracted. He said, and then he went to Israel for the meeting, Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. He said, after 4 hours, he came out with a headache. He said, because all of them, with military precision, first of all, when the meeting started, they dropped their phone. And he was looking at them. They asked him so many questions. I said, that's how the Jewish people are. that they ask questions, and it is asking questions that breaks barriers. If you don't ask questions like why are we here? Why are the questions, why are the promises that God has given us, why are they not appropriated on us? Now, if you grow up in environments where questions are not allowed, you are naturally disadvantaged to say yes, right? And that's one of the ways some churches have conditioned us. You know, I went for a program, a youth program, you know, and this generation, you know, they will ask questions. And I was sitting and one speaker was speaking about sowing. And the one boy said, but we have been sowing. We have been sowing, nothing has happened. I said, these young people, they're not going to take it from you. So you have to be able to intellectually show them, right, why what they're doing is not working or why it's working. And that requires security on the part of some of our leaders. You know, say whatever you want about Eli, but Eli was one of the most secure leaders that the Bible records. And I'm sure he told us about Eli for a reason. So God spoke, he said, he called, what's his name? Samuel. He called him. Samuel got up and went to go and meet Eli. Right? And Eli said, I did not call you. And Samuel returned to go and sleep. And then he called him again. Then Eli said, I did not call you. And then Samuel returned to go and sleep. Now, the third time, Eli realized that it was God that was calling him. Now, I know some African leaders would have said, you know what? Don't answer again. So that the boy will never meet God. Don't answer. Maybe it's your village people, and they know. But he said, if he calls you again, say, speak, Lord, for your servant heareth. For me, that's the highest level of, you know, security. Eli knew, even when God, and again, the Godhead used Jesus again, because he said, and the Lord stood at the door, and that was Jesus, stood at the door and talked to someone and said, come, let me tell you the thing I want to do with Eli's lineage. In Israel, he said things will tingle. And he took that information to Eli. Eli said, whatever, he's the Lord, whatever he wants to do, let him do. Right? So you are going to have challenges with your leadership the minute with fake leadership, let me just put it that way. The minute you start getting very curious, but it shouldn't stop you. Be curious, right? Ask questions. Ask questions, because if you don't ask those questions, your children might end up asking you why you didn't ask those questions. I'm not going to be able to give them an answer, right? But if you ask those questions, you might just be able to deliver an entire generation from poverty, from sickness, from whatever, you know. So you remember I said you can only receive answers at the level at which you're asking questions. So just to recap, yes, 3 o'clock. Just to recap, what did I say today? I started by saying that the purpose of work is not just to feed you, right? That the purpose of work is to continue what God has started, right? And so your work is to continue that work that God has started. If you see it as that, you will know that you are flexible, 1. 2, you can flow into anything. Because some of you hold your job so dear that they offer you different kinds of things. The job has become bondage, but you are so afraid, you know. And if you understand this, it will liberate you. The second thing I said was that the conditions that existed in the beginning of the earth, when God created the earth, are existing now. Those darkness, void, you know, and empty. Those conditions exist now, and they are a prerequisite for your light. And so embrace the darkness. Embrace the darkness, first of all, by realizing that you need to embrace it with joy. That when the darkness comes, you say, yes, this is what we have prepared for. This is what we have been in church for all this while. Therefore, we shine, right? The third thing I said is that, what was the third thing I said? I said that you require a combination of wisdom and traffic for wealth. That if you stop at the wisdom level, you can still end up poor and very wise. You see, the Bible talks about the labor of the fools. He said, wearied them all. He said, because he does not know the way to the market, right? Understanding the way to the market, because it's the market that you traffic. So you must learn how to traffic your wisdom, right? Traffic talks about people. And I said, this is why we are saying that it is not about work, but it's about people, right? So whatever solution you have is not about work, it's about people. If you make it about work, you get shut down. If you make it about people, it flourishes into things that you never imagined that it could be. God bless you. I'll take questions if they are now. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you very much. You have shared lots of things in so short a time. My first question is this. So I have light. I know this light, right? What is but I don't have relationships. How can I move from, I know this is my solution, let your light so shine before me. I'm doing my best wherever I'm at, but looks like I'm not getting traction. I'm not positioning it. I'm not able to position it to the right people who can pay what I really desire. What should I do?
Okay, let me start by saying that you don't have light if you don't have relationships. And that's why we're teaching this people angle to it. A lot of us have gotten stuck into overrating competence, right? And say, I'm competent, so I'm arrogant. Let me tell you, that's why I taught that part about people. That traffic is required, wisdom is required. The two of them are there. You cannot traffic wisdom without people, right? So a lot of things are happening now that I realized that it is relationships that's keeping us in business, right? We recently signed an international hospital, top 10 in the world. And what happened? How did we sign it? I was in London one day talking to some boys, helping them do some things for free. In my office, they don't like me because I'll be doing it for free. And I was helping them do it, just helping them. And one guy said, let's go to this place, and they just built a hospital in front of Buckingham Palace. Let's go and see. So we went there. And they told the hospital, oh, this guy actually works with the Commissioner of Health in Lagos. This was years ago. And then the guys gave me a tour of the hospital. I saw the hospital. I said, Kai. They gave me a tour. This was almost 2 years ago. Then they mentioned at that meeting, we're looking for a representative in Nigeria that will represent us. This is how much we're willing to pay in dollars per annum. We have found someone, but somehow deep down inside us, we are not quite convinced about the person. What do you think? I said, guy, I can't do it. And that was where I sent a proposal, right? And just February last week, I finished my onboarding. Now this is, if I mention the name, you all know the name of my client, my new client. Is big. Now, without relationships, your light will be obscure under the bush. I have been brilliant under a bush. I have been brilliant on top of a platform. The difference is sweet. You better don't try it, right? So imagine if you were brilliant and you had bad attitude, you will be lonely. Remember that the way to wealth is that it puts the solitary in families. Hello? It puts the solitary in families. So if you ask me to weight it, relationships are better, way higher than competence. Yes, globalize your circle, do everything, but manage relationships. That's why I keep talking about prosper as your soul prospers, right? And I say your soul is the seat of your intellect and your emotions. Intellect, your competence, everything, but emotions, the way you manage relationships. I've done stuff where people called me and they said, oh, we want to work with you. Do you have your own company? I was working with some other company. They said, do you have your own company? My journey into entrepreneurship was an accident because people said, okay, go and register your own company so we can be working with you. Right? I've worked in government before because I did things. And they said, okay, these are our budget for next year. What can you do? Pick what you want. So a lot of those things, there were accidents that happened on relationships. So think about people. How can I be a blessing to people? If your mind is constantly on the how can I be a blessing to people, ideas will just come to your head that you can just bless people. That you see, but your soul needs to grow. If your soul does not grow, money will govern you. Money will always be big to you. If money is big to you, you're finished. I'm not joking. BF, I'll give you another example. I was working with a ministry in Lagos. We were going to Kigali. Gates Foundation had paid for us to go to Kigali to go and look at something, go and study something for a week. So, I mean, typically I don't fly economy, so I noticed that I told them to send me the register because I wanted to check something. So the director that was leading the mission, they put her in economy. I said, this is a trap, right? So I called the travel agent. I said, you know what? Give me the difference of what it would take to put her in business. And the travel agent said, okay, gave me the bill. I paid it quietly without telling anybody, right? And that's another thing. I didn't need the accolades. So when it was now time to go. She saw that she was in business, and they knew the budget did not cover her business. So she called the travel agent and said, what's happening now? I said, that guy put you in business. How? If she called me, she said, let me tell you a secret. I've never traveled business in my life before. She said, you have given my husband problem now because I can't travel economy again. She said, this thing that you have done for me, nobody has ever done it before. Leave the work and touch people on a human level. Let's be humans. PF always says these things, that cooking is for humans. You don't know how deep it is. Household is for humans. Household jobs is for humans. Abi? Let us be human. Because some our Christians have forgotten how to be human. We do things, we say things. I mean, there's something that's been on the tip of my tongue. I said I will never say it. I won't say it. But it keeps coming back. I mean, let us just be human. Let's be human. There are things you can never go wrong with if your love work with humanity is intact. Those things, ideas will just come to your head. Let me do this for somebody. A friend of mine became friends with some highly placed man. In fact, the man just got another appointment last week. How did they become friends? He noticed that the man's wife is not at home. So everybody's afraid of the man because the man's brash, he talks. One day he just called him and said, no, Kele, my jealous son, what will you have for lunch? The man was so shocked. He said, I'll call you back. He was angry. What's wrong with this boy? Why is he asking me what I will have for lunch? He just picked up the phone 2 minutes later. He said, Shawnee Amalambe. And that's how this thing opened this boy to prosperity. I'm not joking. I'm talking about real prosperity. Just by asking someone what we have for lunch. Because people all have issues. You come to this table with a heart of love. Love, I always tell you, and I say it, empathy is the world's biggest business model. Love is the biggest core value of every entrepreneur. If you don't have it, it will shut you out. So if you don't have relationships, your light is not complete.
Okay. Someone sent a private message and it says, I struggle to go out of my comfort zone because we've been told that, and she put in brackets, where evil people gather, because we have been taught that we should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers because they may make you lose heaven.
Okay, sorry. We're going to be very surprised. And people that say that, people that use it as a way of putting people under bondage, is hypocrisy. Ask the guy that if he enters the plane and the pilot says, Alhamdulillah, my name is Robbie Alam Akbar, I'll be flying you today to Dubai. Will he say they should park and he should come down? No, will he say they should park and come down? You are yoking yourself in the air. You and all those unbelievers. Will you say they should park and you should come down? He said, we are not of the world, but you are in the world. You have to be very, very practical with this thing, right? Please be human. Let's start with human. Eh? So that means that what you're saying to that person is that you can't even love them, because that's what it translates to. You see them as somehow, you can't even love them. You know, your light is from inside, and that inside is flowing out rivers of living water. You are afraid that what is outside will corrupt your light that is inside. And that fear you need to be first of all cured of that fear. And you need to put yourself in a place where you are constantly flowing things outside. Right? What I'll say is, listen, sometimes God wants to do something so big on the earth, and there's no Christian in that position. None. And the only person you're going to partner with is someone in the Emirates. Are you going to avoid them? What will you do? Please deliver yourself from that. Right?
Okay. Let me just do a follow-up and play the devil's advocate for Fisayo, because I've had that conversation on social media. If you have to choose, and I'm going to put you on the spot, there are two meetings. World Economic Forum, Bill Gates and the rest of them are going to be in the room, and they're going to be taking decisions. Then there's another meeting same day. Kenneth Copeland, all the fathers of faith are going to be in the room. And you can only attend one. Which one would you attend and why?
Baba, I've been doing this thing for 20-something years. If you know how many Holy Ghost services I've gone, I've attended meetings all over the world, sir. I've gone for, I've even stood on the stage in camp, ministered plenty. You know this. So it's not, it's a no-brainer. I would rather be where policies are being made to shape humanity. I'd rather be Nehemiah in the palace. I'd rather be Nehemiah in the palace, right? Look at the World Economic Forum now, because we were absent. Did you watch the last one where they brought a shaman to blow on all the people? I wish I was there. It pained me. That's why I said from next year we have to be going to Davos. I wish I was there. I would have held the shaman's hand and said, you blow, I blow. I will allow you blow. But when I blow, wallah, you will not remain on your feet. You must let me blow. Is that a deal? Go and check, go and ask your gods and come back. You will blow. Me too, I must blow on everybody. I have better anointing service. You know, because it doesn't make sense to me that we just, is a trick, PF, that stops people from playing in the game. And then, you know, it's the same way. You know, I have very strong opinions about this. When they're doing awards and they create a gospel music award, I think it's an insult.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're saying that gospel music is not quality enough. Let's give it its own genre so that they can win something. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's the same way. Put your snake on the floor. Let's go. Elijah did not call the prophet of Baal into another category. He said, no, this is it. So we stop ourselves from playing in the core mainstream by telling ourselves these lies. And then we find out that Christians are not playing in mainstream. But there are some guys who God has men who, I thank God for that. God has men that are playing in mainstream, but not enough. And that's why there's darkness everywhere. When you enter a place and it's dark, you know the superintendent spirit that's there is not the man of God, you know? So let me ask you this. If a church collects loan to build the church, I say I will not go there, but anyway, it has come out. What should the members do when they want to build their houses?
You collect loan.
We have to ask questions. What should the members do when they want to build their houses? It tells you that the model of church we are doing is not correct, because the faith that's been taught applies only to the members. but not to the church. And so we have to tell ourselves the truth, or else we're heading to somewhere that we don't like. And that's why it's all right to teach faith that is impotent. Faith that doesn't move anything. You know? Oh yeah, take this thing to the World Economic Summit, produce results. So we tell our people so they avoid. And you know, if we teach people towards those things, their realities are, you know, if we teach people and they become who they are, churches will not be full. I had to tell someone that one day, I said, if I become everything that I become, you won't see me on Sunday now. But the minute that happens, you will see us victimize him, say, when that brother was looking for a job, he was here every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now we don't see him during the week. But how is he supposed to logistically make it when his jet is in Switzerland on Wednesday and on Saturday night his jet is in France? Do you understand? That's what I'm thinking. How? Now, there's nothing wrong with loans, but we need to build a system. This is how we abuse Islamic banking. It's more institutionalized than any other banking now. But we abuse them, Islamic banking. The guys kept going, kept going, kept going. Have we built our own loving lending system? We have not. We have not. We just stay away from the mainstream, and we keep criticizing. And the guys that understand keep pushing and advancing their agenda, and they keep working. But we stay away and we criticize all day. I'm tired of it. That's why I started by saying complaining traps us from accessing light. So, bros, every day, man, put me at the World Economic Forum, every day.
Finally, Fisayo, before you go, I mean, basically, thank you very much for that example that you put in there. You know, it looks to me, I mean, because you mentioned, because of the wisdom and thy traffic, you have made yourself profitable or rich. So if I apply that to this example, it would look as if that we think that the more people we are housed, maybe the more profitable we are in, and such that let me rephrase the question. Would you say that what we teach and what we do behind the scene are totally different ball games, right? And could it be that is why most of the things we tell people to do is not working for them, but we still keep telling them to do it, to do it,
yes,
to do it?
That's exactly what I meant by saying that we teach things that don't work, faith that is impotent, right? And that's what we've been doing for a while, and nobody has stopped to say, now. So you teach this faith that's impotent, but people are brainwashed and they keep coming, right? And you teach them that and sense knowledge and logical knowledge. And when I study the Bible, I find that the brain is required for faith. That the brain is a critical tool in the faith process. To teach people to leave their brain and say, this is how God does it, that's not correct. There's a portion of this thing that you can't explain. Yes, I agree. But there's a sequence to faith. And if you teach people that sequence, they become so empowered that they are free. The question is, can we handle a free people? We can't handle a free people because there's no security. If they start asking questions, there's no security, right? So obviously, there's a problem. Look at how we do. Okay, PF, let me talk about it in terms of civilization, right? What sort of civilization has people ministering, right, in opulent arenas and churches, beautiful, opulent arenas and churches, wearing uniforms that they cannot afford in their common life? Do you hear what I'm saying? So they are in opulent arenas and churches, right, that they cannot enter normally. At home, their own roof is leaking, and they are wearing choir uniforms and usher uniforms that are so beautiful, clothes that they cannot afford in their own life. But it's like on Sunday, they put up a show. Everything is so beautiful, but these guys don't have transport money to go home. See where the priority is. That's the problem. That's the problem I have. I have no problem with the church. I have no problem, but I just have a problem with us not asking the right questions. Because if you take the same system and you teach the right things, people can be liberated. And I ask these questions a lot because, I mean, FFL is here. People are here. You know, I've done all these things. I've done this choir. I've done it. You're wearing shirts that you can't afford, suits that you cannot afford in your own life. But on Sunday, you look a certain way because you have to look a certain way. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's warped.
So, final question, Fisayo. I have had all these things. What can I, and it's tough to find balanced teachers out there. Like we always say that any man that has an agenda cannot teach this gospel successfully.
Never.
That's what we say.
Never. Cannot.
So the moment I have in my mind, I want to build the largest, I want to be the biggest, I will water down things. So what can I do for myself? I'm glad someone says, what is the way out? So I have had you. I can relate with everything you have said. I want to build my war chest because I want God to use me to liberate humanity with my wealth. But then I'm in forums and places where everything I've had is not working, right? What are the first steps I need to take to at least liberate myself and maybe the people who are close to me?
First thing, excuse yourself from fora where you perceive there's something missing. Excuse yourself. That's the hard part. They say if you are going to lead the orchestra, you must back the crowd. You excuse yourself, right? From those fora. That's the hard part. People want to stay in those places. Ask yourself, why do I stay here? Now, let me give you, I think I gave this example last week, but I want to say it in a final way. And PF, just give me a few minutes. So Hebrews 11 talks about Abel. It talks about the patriarchs, right? It talks about each thing that if you study it well, it talks about Enoch. What Enoch taught us was intimacy with God, right? It talks about Abel, and Abel taught us that sacrifice is the love language of spirits. He taught us that sacrifice is the love language of God, right? He talked about Abraham, and Abraham taught us about altars, right? An altar being an embassy or a portal that opens a dimension, right? So he taught us about all those things, and he taught us that altars are permanent, tents are temporary, right? So he taught us that these tents that you are building, they will not last. Look through the the history of the church in Turkey. Those tents have become museums, right? Those churches have become museums. Some of them will become mosques later. Do you understand what I'm saying? These auditoriums that are being built, they are temporary, right? So these patriarchs taught us this thing. Now let's look at Abel. He said Abel offered up a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he received the witness, right? And I talked last week about the expert witness, I remember about, and I talked about the eyewitness. And I said something, and I don't know if anybody heard it. I said an expert witness is someone that studies himself to show himself approved and can sit on the witness stand for you on the day of trouble. Why? Because there's coming a day when your case will be called in court. I don't care who you are. Everybody here, your case will be called in court for something or the other. Whether you get a favorable judgment will depend on whether you have the right witness in the box. That's what Paul was explaining about faith. So he said, by faith, the elders obtained a good report. That word report means witness. So when they talked about the elders, them Abel, them Cain, he said they obtained a good report by faith. Now, an expert witness, PF can be an expert witness for me. I can be an expert witness because he's my friend, right? An expert witness is someone that will stand with you when you're weak, right? When you really need him. So the guys who tore the roof of Jesus and brought their friend in, they were expert witnesses. The centurion was an expert witness for his servant. The Syrophoenician woman was an expert witness for her daughter. Now, if you are in a church, listen to me, and your pastor has never and can never stand as an expert witness for you, get up, pack your bag and your Bible and leave today. That's the first thing. You excuse yourself from arenas where you sense that people love a crowd more than they love people. Right? Because if you stay there, you will become part of the delusion and you find yourself defending those things. And we have gotten to the point where everybody is responsible for themselves now. Right? You will become part of the delusion. If you see a major error, right? Major thing that proves that the people leading your church are not humans. Get up and leave now. You know why? Because it just shows that, the word in Yoruba is shakolo, which means that we have found a way. We have lost it. If you see something showing that they are not humans, which means that there's no empathy in their leadership, but they say there's spirit, but there's no empathy. They say there's spirit, but the fruits of the spirit are not there. Wrong. So that's the first step. You say, what's the way out? I'm telling you what I did. I backed out. I kept going to church, but I told them, I said, don't ordain me, don't do anything. I will sit at the back. I will enter church and sit at the back. Right? Because first of all, I needed to cure myself of any feeling that the church was there to elevate me to a certain status. Some of you don't tell yourself the truth. You like the status that the church gives you. When you reach there, they say, pastor, elder, brother, the community sort of elevates you. No, that's not what the church is meant to do. You are supposed to bring to the table and not take. Right? So free yourself from that first of all. And then read again, go back and expose yourself to the world where you're practicing in the real world, right? Practice this thing. If you miss it, go back, practice it. You miss it, go back, practice it. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. Just practice it. This thing did not work. Okay, practice it. I found out that when I went and started to manifest from outside, then the churches started inviting me to come and talk. You must go and manifest from outside. But it's hard work. It's hard work because you'll be there making confessions, you'll be there taking courses, you'll be there building yourself, you'll be there getting up to mainstream. Make sure that you're playing in the mainstream. That's the third thing I'll tell you. Don't let anybody sweep you out of the mainstream. In your industry, make sure you're in the mainstream. And you know the mainstream of your industry. If you're a banker in this country, there's a mainstream. If you're in healthcare, we know each other, all of us. If we don't meet you at those meetings, you're not in the mainstream, right? If you are in manufacturing, there's a mainstream. Take the mainstream by the horn and try and succeed with it using what you have learned. If you can't succeed using what you have learned, then you have learned the wrong things. Unlearn them and try again. Unlearn them and try again. They've told you, go, the Lord will favor you. It's fine, it's true. But good understanding procures favor. So they said the Lord will favor you. You went, it didn't work. Come back. Look, I've gone to places where they say I should get out. Right? Say, go. I've written proposals, grant proposal, this one. They said they will just not call you back. In fact, I wrote, one was my friend. We saw him in Brussels. I said, but why I wrote proposal? I said, I'll look at it. He didn't call me back to tell me they didn't give me. But I still go and try. That somehow we have to succeed at this thing. We have to succeed. And now we see the feast we see abundance. We see a cloud like the feast of a man, saying that there's abundance of rain in darkness. Then we know that, yes, we have to work out this model. I'm sorry. I apologize on behalf of all your teachers that you had to learn it by yourself. But if you wait to be taught, you will. Another thing, the fourth thing I'll tell you is don't miss House of Saviors. And PF does not pay me to advertise this, So these things are set in your mind so that you can think. And it's supposed to, how did Njideka say it earlier? scatter your theology, or just so that you can now start thinking there's more. There's more out there. Look, after I got out of all this, and this is after 20 years in different churches, I'm talking about at the core of the church. After I got out of this, I now realized that Nigeria is small. Right? The fourth point, you missed it, is don't miss House of Saviors, because the thinking here is different. I now realize that Nigeria is small. I realized that Nigeria is small, that I had been playing small, and there's a big world out there to be taken, just waiting to be taken. And if I'm not afraid, then I go and take it. So as I started doing orientation with this organization, they started to tell me, oh, Fisayo, so you need to be in the US this day, you need to be in London this day. That is trip to Mexico. I said, hear me. And I have been delaying here, sitting down, thinking that we are doing local champion. So be careful, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck in the wrong theology. There's much more to you than even those people know. Some of them even know, funny enough, because to be honest, they see, and they're not comfortable with the fact that there's much more to you, right? So I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to confuse you and not convince you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Efo. As usual, a blessing to us. Well, we can't wait. This series is a long one, but we're taking notes and we're going to produce results. And that's the most important thing. You would have expected Fisayo to start talking business plan, which is the conventional thing, but he's taking a different approach. And I think this is, an approach that is going to help all of us. You can't afford to play small. You cannot. We have to think. We have to think and ensure that whatever, and that's why right now, whatever cannot be practicable, whatever cannot produce results, I am not interested. When I tell you they say, I'm not interested. All this is your mystery that can't produce results. I am not interested. Give me 1 + 1 must be equal to 2. If it's not true, let me understand why it's not true. That's the way I am. Thank you very much, Fisayo. God bless you. We will see you next week by God's grace. Over to you, Oluwaseun. Let me take myself out of here.